All right. Welcome everyone to GSD with Tanwa, day 6, research project examples. Last week, we talked about how to find your own direction when it comes to doing research. Right? We talked about different levels of research projects and what kind of research projects that I consider uh, not better, but more extensive, right? More valuable, right? So for those of you who are new to this channel or this series, I guess, this is GSD with Tanwa, getting shit done with Tanwa, right? So getting shit done means that we want to finish shit as effective and as well as possible. So this series is aimed mostly for graduate students who might be struggling with their graduate student career. Right? This is part 2 of the program. Part 1 of the program is about English language and how to improve your English language. Part 2 of the program is how to be a better researcher. And so far we've talked about, what does it mean to be doing research? What make a research project interesting, right? Which boils down to an interesting research project is a valuable research project. We talked about what does it mean to have your research project being valuable. Right? The last few weeks, we were talking about how to access research materials, right? How to find research papers, how to read research papers. And then last week, we talked about the different levels of research projects that you could be doing. I did give some examples of the different levels of research projects last week, but I will recap again about the 3 levels in my mind of research projects today, just briefly, in case you missed last week. And then we will launch into giving you examples of the kind of research involved with different levels of doing research today. Okay, so if you want to follow along today, the examples that we will be using are in the video description, right? So you could look at the video description and find the papers from there. So we'll be looking at 3 papers, all in the same theme, right? But before we go there, let's talk about, again, recap on the 3 levels of research projects. So last week we talked about this before, and from the most shallow level of doing research is this one that I called optimization. Right? So again, this kind of research project looks at something that you know that it works, right? You know that something works. Something, not sh. You know that something works. Now you try to make it better. Right? You try to make it faster. You try to make it more effective. Blah blah blah. Right? You just try to make it better somehow. Better, faster, cheaper, stronger. All of the above combined. Right? So while this kind of research project, is valuable, right? Because you always want to try to make something better. It is the least impactful when it comes to research project. You know why? Because when you're trying to optimize something, it's in the name, right? Optimization is very situation specific. So when you see a research project like this, usually it will be applicable to only specific industry, right? If you do a research project in this level, usually you can only apply your knowledge in, for example, hotel management only. You can't use it with the restaurant because you haven't done it for the restaurant industry. You can't use it for shopping malls because hotels and shopping malls are totally different kind of strategy, different kind of businesses. If you are in like science, for example, if you do remote sensing research in the Phuket area, your knowledge, some of it might be applicable to someone in Europe, for example, but it's not universally applicable, right? Someone in Europe, you probably have to change what you have found a lot to be suitable for their region. So even though this level of research is valuable, but it is also the easiest way to do research project, right? And then we talked about the deeper level, which is what I call refinement. Okay? And refinement is when you know that something is true, you know that something is true, but you're trying to see if it works or not. Right? You see the difference? This one, you know that something works, but you try to make it better. Right? This one, you know that something is true, but you're not sure whether it works or not. So this kind of refinement is important because usually the refinement process takes something from an abstract concept and make it become valuable, right? Take an abstract concept that everyone takes to be true and just try to see whether it actually works or not. One of the quick example is this research from a while ago. Hold on. Right. So most of you probably know or have heard that flossing, right? The act of flossing. So flossing, for those of you who might have a problem with English language, flossing is the act of using this little dental yard and just dental floss and just, clean your teeth with it. Yeah, let me show you what it looks like. You probably know, but trying to make sure everyone's on the same page. So that is flossing, right? So flossing, everyone have heard that, oh, it's good for your health. It's really fantastic. Everyone should do it. So that is something that everyone takes to be true, okay? And then the refinement process would be, okay, we all take it to be true, but does it actually work, right? And the most recent research actually suggests that, you don't see the headline here, but here, Harvard Health, right? The latest study in the past few years is that flossing doesn't actually work, right? You see how it went from something that is true, right? You should clean your teeth, to flossing, and then flossing doesn't actually work, right? So that's the refinement kind of level of research. And this level of research is useful because it takes an abstract concept and make it work, or challenge the abstract concept that we have, right? Challenge something that we think is true and should work. It could be something that is true but doesn't work at all, right? There's also like nuanced details when it comes to refinement, but I would rather not go in there. But you can see that for the refinement process, if something is true and work in one region, it is most likely to be true and work in another region as well. Right? So that's why refinement level of doing research is way more powerful than other level of doing research, right? And then lastly, you have the bottom layer, which is what I call the assumption level. Right? This is paradigm shifting stuff. This one takes something that you think is true, and then you say, I wonder if it actually is, but is it actually true? Right. So this attack things at the fundamental level, right? And if you can do the research at the assumption level, this is going to be very, very like powerful stuff, right? Because you take something that everyone takes to be true, and then you just challenge it. You just be like, hey, I wonder if it's true. Right. And that's why it's the most powerful part. So today I'm going to give you one specific example from each of these level of doing research. Right? So we're going to be looking at 3 research papers today. Oh, I didn't share my screen. Nobody say anything. Yeah, so just so you can see it. So you take something, assumption level, you take something that you think is true, and then you just ask whether it is actually true or not. All right, so today I'm going to give you 3 specific examples at different level of research project, right? Just from optimization, refinement, and assumption. We're going to go from the top, right? So the first example I'm going to give is the optimization level of doing research. And then the second example is refinement, and the last example is assumption. I'm gonna refer to each of the research by the first name, the last name of the first author. So the first paper is going to be by Kim, the second paper is going to be by Yang, and the last one is going to be by McElroy. Okay, so Kim, Yang, McElroy. All right, so let's go to the example. Again, if you want to follow along with the example, the link to the paper is at the bottom, is in the video description. If you cannot access the paper, you should go back a few episodes on accessing research papers, right? And then I talked about different ways of getting to a research papers. So then you can follow along, right? I would rather not repeat it too many times on that topic. Anyway, let's start with Kim's paper. So again, this is the paper at the, actually, let me reshare the screen so that I can just share the entire screen so I don't have to switch the windows too often. All right. So, so this is Kim's paper. And again, Kim's paper is at the top of the ladder, right? It's at the optimization level. It takes something that know to be working and try to make it better. So this paper is titled The Windfall to Gain Effect, Using a Surprise Discount to Stimulate Add-on Purchases. Okay, so just from the title. So again, when you read something, like we read from the title and then we read the abstract and then we skim through the paper. Right? So we're gonna follow the same practice here, and also we're gonna look at the structure of the paper as well. If you're like, what are you talking about, the way on how to read a paper, then well, you should go back on to see the episode on how to read a paper. Haha. And if I can suckle through the Spanish computer that I have here, I could maybe find a table of content. Aha. See, not bad. So again, if you have been with me since GSD part 1, you know that one of the things about learning language is forcing yourself to use the new language in all your electronic devices. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm learning Spanish. So all my electronic devices are in Spanish, right? So sometimes I struggle at finding things that I should be able to find easily. But hey, that's part of learning, right? So clearly I'm doing exactly what I told you should be doing to learn a new language. Yeah, go me. All right, so this one, again, optimization level of research project. So this one is obviously looking at the way to use a discount to stimulate add-on purchases. So just from the title, you know exactly what they're going to talk about. They're going to talk about the most optimized way possible to use discount to stimulate more purchases from customer, right? Very simple, just from the title. And then you read the abstract a little, right? Just like we talked about on how to read a paper. So you go, how can the business maximize revenue while providing discount? Okay. And then it said the research suggests that hospitality operators, So just from the first two sentences, you know immediately that this research project is only applicable to hospitality operators. So probably hotels, motels, guest houses, airlines, maybe, cruise lines, stuff like that, rental homes. So how the hospitality operators can make people buy more stuff using surprise discounts, right? Not just any kind of discounts, just the surprise kind. And they told you about the way they investigated different factors, they tested the discount, and they identify how big of a discount it has to be, and the product type effects on the discount, right? Maybe this is too small of a text, so let me collapse that. And then they say the findings indicate that a surprise discount and hedonic items induce consumers' unplanned purchases. So just from the abstract, you know that hedonic items, right, receive a boost in sales if you give customers a surprise discount, right? Useful, valuable, key information. right here. A hedonic add-on item is preferred over a utilitarian item when a low discount is offered. Impulse buying mediates the effect of surprise discount and product types of unplanned purchase intentions. This research extends the traditional discount role by demonstrating that a discount promotion can induce consumers additional purchases. The findings provide guidance for effective pricing strategies and add-on marketing mix, right? So before we launch into like why is this research at the optimization level, I would like to stress again that a good research is not aiming for new knowledge. A good research is not aiming to be like statistically complex. No, a good research provides you valuable information. Right? So this research, just in the abstract alone, is saying, hey, this research project will tell you that if you want to give a discount, the surprise kind, you want to give it to hedonic items, not utilitarian items. Right? Hedonic items mean items that you do not need, right? So in hotel industry, this would be like spa treatment, romantic packages, or like a day trip to fancy places, like fancy restaurants. Utilitarian items like Wi-Fi access in your room, or like rental cars, or like extra blankets, right? Shit that you can use. But hedonic items are like luxurious items, right? Things that you don't really need, but it'd be nice if you have it, right? So right out of the gate, this research project is telling you that hedonic items get better boosts if you give a discount compared to utilitarian item. And then the other thing that it gives you immediately is that you should give a low discount, right? So two key valuable information right there. All right. And then at last, it point out that this finding can provide hotel operators with effective pricing strategies, right? So you can price your products better. People will buy more of your stuff and all of that, right? So really good. So let's go into the structure of the paper. Right? So just like I said, the way to read it is to go title, abstract, structure, and then just skim through the paper. So from the structure, you see that the introduction, again, is the most bullshit part of a research paper. And I usually just skip through everything because it doesn't really matter. All right. Because, in the introduction, it will say something along the line of discount works, but we should make it better somehow. And then you go into the lit review, right? In the lit review, it probably defines what a discount means, what cross-selling means, what a windfall gain effect mean, product type, and impulse buying, right? So these are all the key terms in these research papers. And then in the study methodology, it tells you about the design of the methodology and operationalization of variables. Whew, big word. Operationalizations of variables mean that they have to change the variable from vague concepts into something that is measurable, right? So when you say, for example, the customer satisfaction, how do you actually measure that? So that's probably in 3.1.2, and then it goes into the procedure of measuring it, right? So 3.1.2 probably define a method to translate from verbal concept into quantitative measures. And then 3.1.3 is probably going to talk about how do they send out the surveys, right? And then 3.2, they talk about the results. And then that they have study 1, so obviously you have study 2. And then it goes into the demographic profiles and the discount depth, blah, 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 and then the discussion, right? All right, so that's a pretty typical structure of this paper. I would go through this paper kind of quick because we're not here to learn about the paper. We're here to learn about different levels of doing research, okay? So this paper, again, we know what it's going to say because we have read the abstract, right? So we go into the lit review and then we say, okay, it's going to define discount. Cross-selling is a method to increase revenue by selling services and products in addition to customers' main purchases, right? So this fits really well with our observation that this research project is only applicable to the hospitality industry, right? So you sell a room, but on top of that, you also sell spa services or like fancy dinners, right? So that's cross selling, and that's all you need to know as far as 2.2 is concerned. And then you go, you keep doing that. You go into 2.3 somewhere up here, 2.3, the windfall gain effect, and then you read about that, which doesn't really matter for us right now, right? So we can just skip it. And then product types. So this one, let me give you this little guidance. When you read the abstracts, you have seen the word hedonic and utilitarian, right? Let's say your English is not good enough and you have no idea what hedonic and utilitarian item means, right? When you went through the structure of the paper, right? When you went through the structure of the paper, you see that 2.4, it defines product type, right? So when you read the abstract, you know from the abstract that there are at least 2 product types that give you different effects when it comes to giving discount, right? But if you don't know what it means, you know immediately from reading through the structure of the paper that 2.4 is the section that you should pay attention to, right? So when you skim through it, make sure to skim through 2.4 slower compared to the rest of the paper. Okay. So in 2.4, it defines that although most products contain both hedonic and utilitarian features, they can be broadly categorized as predominantly hedonic or utilitarian. Right? So utilitarian consumption occurs when a purchase is made for necessity, and then hedonic products create emotional arousal. Right? So just from this alone, you see that they have defined what hedonic products are and what utilitarian products are. Right? So if you have skimmed through this one slower, then you would know the difference. And then impulse buying, what it is, blah, 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 which doesn't really matter to us. But at this point, you should start notice something different, right? You start seeing this hypothesis thing. Right? We'll come back to this in a little bit. And then you go into the study, which again, the methodology part, if you want to read a paper just to understand it. Right? Remember, we have different levels of reading as well. We have like use it, cite it, understand it, and then refer to it, blah, blah, blah. Go back to earlier episodes if you're not sure what I'm talking about and just try to look it up there. The methodology part is not that important if you just want to skim through it quickly. So I'm just going to skip it because fuck it. Who cares? And then you start seeing, and then you look into the figures. Never skip the figures, right? The figures usually take a long time for the author to create. So the reason they put it there is because it's important. So this one show the limitation of this paper, right? They only talk about the surprise discount kind of promotion, right? So this is the difference between no surprise discount and a surprise discount, right? So it basically gives you this like horrific looking banner for you to do, and then you just skim through it, and then you see this like weird looking statistics stuff, and then you know they use ANOVA. If you don't know what the hell ANOVA is, it doesn't really matter. Just look at it and admire the beauty of these statistics. But again, never skip the figures, right? So you get up to this point, and then you look at the figures. Since we have read the abstracts, right? We have read the abstract. We have read about the product types. You know that they're going to talk about 2 product types, hedonics and utilitarian. And then you see something amazing happen, right? So again, if we go back to the optimization kind of doing research, you know that something works, but optimization try to make something work better, right? So before we have read this paper, we know that giving out discount work in making customers more likely to purchase something, right? More discount mean more purchase. Also, we thought, and then we read this paper, and then we see that let's look at the hedonic part only, because that's the fun part of this paper, right? So let's look at it here, just this part right here, right? Looking at just the hedonic part alone, you see that, let's see if I can get a paper, this thing out. Hold on. Uh, okay. Let's just look at this part and this part alone, right? Just see the hedonic item. And you see that they have defined 3 different discount level, basically low discount, medium discount, and high discount, right? Before we have read this paper, we would have thought that the bigger the discount is, the more likely it is for the customers to purchase, right? And this paper has shown that it is not true. For hedonic items, the higher discount you give, the less likely the customer will purchase it, which is very counterintuitive, right? So you go from low discount up here, and then you have high discount in the middle, and then you have medium discount down here, right? And it turns out that if you give a small discount, you get a boost in the likelihood to purchase. But if you give too high of the discount, people actually purchases less. And the paper goes into why they think that is the case. But this alone just go to show you that this research project, even though it's only at the optimization level of doing research, it is still valuable. It is tremendously valuable because as a hotel operator, you would have thought that the more discount you give, the better it will be for your product. But no, right? You just want to give low discount, make low discount, make more profit, and the customers purchases more. Boom, mind blowing, valuable, right? All right, and then you go through the rest of the paper, blah blah blah, which I will not go into the details, but it is an interesting paper nonetheless, even though it's at the optimization level of doing research, right? But you can see how this paper is valuable, how this paper takes something that works and then just try to make it better, right? So from now on, if you have read this paper and if you believe in the paper, right, we will talk about criticizing literature in the future. But if you think that the methodology and the analysis of the paper is valid, then at this point you should conclude that for hedonic items and a price discount, a low discount is better than a deep discount. Valuable, right? So that's optimization level of doing research. So let's move on to the second level, the deeper level of doing research from with a paper by Yang. Okay, so Yang title is said, "Looks for Less: How do consumers react to luxury hotel price promotions? The moderating role of consumers' need for status." Right? And rather than going through the whole how to read a paper like I just did with the Kim's paper, I would go through this one slightly faster because we have a lot of things to cover today. So I would skip the paper structure skimming like we just did for Kim. But do know that when I read it on my own and I don't have to talk about it, I actually go through the whole steps, right? It's not a rule that you have to follow every single time, but it is what I do, right? It is what works for me, and hopefully it will also work for you. So looks for less. Let's see what it says. So as an emerging distribution channel, online discount websites are gaining popularity among luxury hotels. However, little guidance on the effectiveness of such price promotion in luxury hotels is provided in the extant literature. Building on the status consumption theories, we examine the joint effects of price promotions and need for status, NFS, on consumers' attitudes toward the hotel as well as their intention to return. Our results indicate that consumers who are high in need for status exhibit less favorable attitudes toward the luxury hotel and a lower likelihood to return on having learned that the hotel plans to implement price promotion through discount websites. Boom. So if you read that sentence and you don't go, oh crap, then you haven't read it carefully enough. What this sentence is saying, here, let me highlight it. What this sentence is saying is that if you are a luxury hotel and most of your guests are what we can categorize as needs for status customers, So need for status are those people who, I don't know, brag about it on social media. Those people who care about their social standing, right? Nothing wrong with that, but it's just different demographic as consumer. So for social media influencers, I guess, it's actually counterintuitive because of what? They do not want discount. All right, let me say that again. If your hotels have a lot of social media influencers, do not give out discount. Isn't that crazy? You would have thought that the more discounts you give customer, the happier they will be. But for NFS consumers, the more discounts you give, especially if you give it to someone else and not them, the angrier they get and the less happy they become with your hotel. So if you have a lot of NFS consumers, do not ever, ever, ever give out discount. Just stick to your gun and they will come back because they like paying extra money. Isn't that crazy? I think that is crazy. But you see that this paper is valuable immediately. If you are a hotel that is branding as a luxury hotel, you do not want to give out discount. All right. On the contrary, customers who are low in NFS are unaffected by the presence of price promotions via discount websites. So in other words, the customers who don't care about their social standing do not give a shit whether you give out discount or not. You can give out discount, you cannot not give out discount. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't concern them. So if you are a luxury hotel and you give out discount online, then that only hurts you. Valuable research right there, right? So why is this in the refinement and not in the optimization or assumption, right? So for this, it takes something that is true or that we think is true, right? That discount always make customer happier. It takes something that we think is true and we try to see if it works, right? And this paper show that it does not work, right? Giving discount does not work if you are a luxury hotel. That is why this paper or research project is in the refinement level. Yeah, let's go back to the paper. See what they do. So I can't do this. I need to look at the structure, right? Just to show you example. Oh, they don't even have structure for this paper. Well, I guess that settles it then. So the introduction, again, you can just skip it. It defines price promotions. It defines what can be considered NFS consumers, what can be considered luxury consumption, consumers NFS and price promotions, what have been done in the past. And then it gives you, again, these hypotheses, right? Hypothesis number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. Right? And then it went into the study design of this research paper. But I would just skip all the methodology and stuff, right? Because it doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter. It depends on the level of reading of research paper that you want to do. But for our purpose of skimming through it to find the right level of research project, it doesn't really matter too much. So I'm just going to come down to this one right here, the figures, right? Never, never, ever skip the figures. Okay, so this figure is showing you 2 types of customers. You have the high NFS customers, and you have the low NFS customers. So that's the x-axis, and then the vertical axis is the consumer's attitudes toward the hotel. So how much they like you, basically. If you give out price promotion or not giving out price promotion, and then you see immediately. Let's just look at this end, like the man. This is hard without when it's not an iPad. Let's see if I can. Nope. Man, I need to buy the pro version of PDF. So admin, if you're listening to this, please buy me the pro version of PDF Creator. Anyway, so you can see from here, the dotted line is when you don't have discount, right? This line right here. So the dotted line is saying that if you do not have discount, the high NFS consumers is actually very happy that you don't have discount, right? Because they prefer paying more so that they feel special about themselves. But then if you give out discount, actually these people will be happy, the low NFS people, because they only care about price. But the high NFS people is very, 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 very unhappy. You see the drastic shift in happiness, right? This is a drop of 1.6 score compared to a gain of about 0.8, right? So never give out discount if you are a luxury hotel, basically. So that's one of the result. The other result is the customer intention to return, right? So again, you get the same story. You get a little bump if you give out discount from the low NFS consumers, but for the high NFS consumers, they will never ever come back, right? They went from 4.5 to 2.8. They will not come back. Okay, so this is why this research project is in the refinement zone, right? It takes something that we think is true, right? Discount works and discount make consumers happier, because a rational consumer, if you are to purchase the same thing, the less you have to pay for it, the happier you will be. But this shows that it is not true, right? Something that we think is true, it doesn't actually work. The discount doesn't make consumer happier. So this is why it's in the refinement zone and not optimization, right? It takes something that is true and show that it does not work. All right, and then it goes into the theoretical contribution of this paper and why do they think that the high NFS consumers prefer no discount over more discount, right? And then it talks about managerial implications if you are a hotel owner, how you would have used this information to price your services. Okay. Before we launch into the deepest level of research project, which is the assumption level, let me point this out. So look at this figure right here, the Yang paper. Right. This paper is from, I believe, 2015. Right. So this is Yang's paper from 2015. This is Kim's paper from 2021. So it's actually pretty new. I wonder if I can put them side by side. Let me see. Perfect. Yeah, give me a second here. All right, look at these two figures. Do you see similarities? I do. Right. You have two types of things. Right. You have two types of things. And then you have basically customer satisfaction on the vertical axis, right? You have customer satisfaction over here, and then customer satisfaction over here. And then you have this plot of lines in the middle, right? That shows the changing level of customer satisfaction when you change product types, right? So if you are a researcher in hospitality industry, you know immediately that this is the standard way of presenting this type of data, right? So just from reading these two papers, it gives you this information to improve your writing in the future, right? So that is why when we talk about writing your own research paper, we will be talking about this. We will be talking about knowing the language or the methods of communication in your field of study, right? Because different fields of study have different way of communicating information. And just from reading these two papers, you know that if you want to convey changing customer satisfaction compared to two categories of something, then this is the way to plot it. Yay. Another thing that you should notice immediately from reading these two papers is the present of hypothesis, right? So you have hypothesis over here, and you also, I know the text is too small. I'm just showing you the location of it in a paper. So we don't care about the content at this point. So you see that there are hypotheses in the two papers. So you know that if you want to prove or disprove something in hospitality industry or journals, the standard way is to propose your hypothesis and use some kind of statistical measurement in order to prove or disprove your hypothesis. Okay? So just from reading these two papers alone, you'll gain useful information when it comes to doing research. All right. But the most exciting part, obviously, is, well, how do you go into the deeper level of doing research, right? How do you go back to the assumption layer of doing research? Again, at the assumption layer, you take something that you think is true, and then you show that it's probably not true, right? So in this case, what is the one thing that we know is true, but it's probably not true, right? The one thing that we know is true is that discount will bring in more customers, right? Oh, sorry. Discount will make your business more profitable in the long run, right? Because that's why we give discount. We give discount so that customers will come and try our services. Customer will buy more of our stuff so that hopefully they become loyal to our brand and keep buying our stuff in the future, right? That's why people give a discount to get people into the door, basically. Right? So let's look at this paper by McElroy from 2000. Right? So McElroy paper's title, Building Customer Relationships. Do discount cards work? And just from the title, you know that it doesn't work. Right? Just from the title, it would say, if the title saying Building Customer Relationships discount card is fantastic, then that's just like people were just going to go, we all know that. But this one immediately put you on your seat because it say, hey, do discount cards work? Do we really know that it works? Right? So this is at the fundamental level. Like this challenge your core concept that giving out discount always make your business better in the long run, right? This one just like, hey, I don't think it will work. So let's go, let's see how they do it. So the abstract, it says the relationship between customer loyalty and satisfaction, profitability and customer retention is described within the framework of relationship marketing, right? And then they talk about loyal customers and their impact on business profitability is undisputed because you want customers who will come back years after years after years, right? And then various strategies have been concocted, including discount cards to retain customer, but their success is questionable, right? So this paper is studying New Zealand hotel, and then it showed that if you give out discount card, the customers act like a mercenaries, right? So mercenaries mean even though they're happy with your services, but they don't have any commitment to your company, right? They might be really happy when they come and stay at your hotel because of the discount, but once the discount is gone, they are gone. They are gone and they go to another hotel with similar discount, right? So if you do discount at your hotel, you will not have loyal customers. You will have customers who come in and stay one time at your hotel and then leave and go find another deal somewhere else. All right. So that's the gist of this research. But why is it so powerful? It is so powerful because it attacks the assumption layer of giving out discount. We thought that giving out discount will make your business better in the long run. That's why we do it. But as it turns out, at least it's not true, at least to New Zealand people. Okay. So, and then it go into relationship marketing and what it is, customer retention and what it is. And then let's go into the research part of it. So it defines what a relationship marketing is, what define loyalty of customers, profitability and satisfaction, and then it go into customer retention, right? Blah, 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 blah. And then it goes into how they do the methodology of it, and then how they have statement on whether the customers have been to the hotel before the discount card, and then what are they planning to do afterward, right? One of the things that I find very interesting is that if you read through this paper, like I did, you see, for example, this one, right? Where while the customers, well, let me get back to this part. Like this point is kind of important and I don't want to just blast through it. But at the end, notice that this paper from 2000 doesn't have this kind of plot that we talked about for Yang and Kim. doesn't have this kind of plot. Why? Because this paper is not at these top layers, right? It's attacking the assumption of yours. It's attacking your assumption that discount always work. This paper just go to show that discount doesn't work in the long run because customer is not uh, loyal, right? For example, this one, right? Before the discount card, if they are using the bar of the hotel at 25%, after the discount card, you're only down to 17, right? 32 down to 26, health club 24 down to 8. Why? Because they don't care. They're just here for the discount. Right? Why is this paper powerful? Because it attacks your core assumption that discount is always better for your business, right? Discount is bad for your business if this is the case, right? If this is the case, if this is the way you implement the card, it might not work in the long run, right? This is not to say that discount never works. It's just that this discount type, the loyalty card, right? Discount cards doesn't actually work. Maybe there is another kind of discount that may work. Maybe surprise discount would work. But this kind of discount doesn't actually work, right? So that's why I classify it as the assumption level. But notice that this boundary between the three layers is actually is not rigid, right? You can actually classify one research into one type or another because even McElroy research, right? It can be classified as the assumption layer when it comes to discount. But then again, they only did the study only in New Zealand, right? They only did it in New Zealand. So maybe you can do a similar study, but you do it in Bangkok or something, right? And if you do that, then your research will be in the optimization level. Or you can say, hey, well, if discount card doesn't work for New Zealand, can I use the discount card? Well, if discount card doesn't work for the hotel industry, can discount cards work for, say, like a what do I want to say? Theme park. There you go. That's what I was thinking. Just couldn't switch the language fast enough from Spanish. Do discount cards work on theme parks, right? And there have been evidence to show that it works, right? So then you will be doing research at the refinement level. And then lastly, you go, okay, well, you assume that customer not coming back is not good, right? So McElroy paper actually assumed that customer not coming back means that you are less profitable, right? That's the assumption, right? If the customers don't come back, that is always bad for your business. But it doesn't actually cover everything, right? It doesn't cover the fact that maybe the customers who come into your hotel with a discount card might never come back to your hotel. However, they might talk about your hotel, right? So if they use the discount card to come into your hotel and they use your service and they're really happy about it, even though they might never come back, but maybe every time people talk about going somewhere, they will bring up the hotel, your hotel, to their friends because they were so impressed by your services, right? And in that case, even though you're not profitable from this specific customer, but they might help bring you in more customer, right? So if you're doing research at this level, like, hey, well, they might not come back, but do they talk about your hotel? Then you take something that you think is true, right? That customer not back is not profitable. And you just ask whether it's actually true or not. Boom, assumption level of doing research, right? And I can go all day with this. And this comes with practice. When you read research papers, always ask, hey, if you want to extend this research paper at the optimization level, what kind of research project would you do? If you want to do it at refinement level, what kind of research project would it be? And if you want to do it at the assumption level, how would you do it? Right? You don't even have to go into the details. You're just like, hey, what if I change something and make this the assumption level of doing research? What if I change something and make it the refinement level of doing research? Right? fantastic exercise. Okay, let's come back to this part when we talk about yes, right. So in this McIlroy paper, they talk about the respondent buying discount card and the card expired, and but then some of the respondents who used the discounts to come to your hotel and try out your bar, right, was not happy with the bartender. Right, the bartender was unfriendly and rude. After ordering a glass of wine at $6 a glass, he barely filled it past halfway, and when questioned, just turned his back. Right. And if you read this part, then you know it might remind you of what we talked about last week when we talked about satisfier and dissatisfier of customers, right? And if you start thinking in that way, then this is, if you remember the 4 levels of reading, right? So you have elementary reading, inspectional reading, analytical reading, and the last one is syntopical reading, right? You read about a certain topic across different papers, right? So if you read this sentence and then you go, oh my God, that is so close to the dissatisfier that we talked about last week, then you're right, you're doing syntopical reading, right? So again, satisfier and dissatisfier are factors affecting customer satisfaction, and they can be totally different things, right? So in this case, a discount might make a customer happy, but the customer will be really unhappy if the service is bad, right? So it's better, if you remember from last week, it's better to have an okay service with a small discount than to have a deep discount with horrible service, right? Even though these two effects should cancel each other out, but in reality, it doesn't, right? And if you do it, if you start thinking of it this way, then you start building up this network of information that only you know, because that's your specialty in doing this kind of research, right? So that's syntopical reading. And we will talk about this further down the line when we talk about editing your research project, make your research project better, and all that stuff. All right. So just to recap a little bit, so today we give you examples of the 3 level of research projects, right? You have optimization levels of research, you have refinement level of research, and you have the assumption level of research, right? And we talked about why they can be classified into one and not the other. We talked about why the boundary between the levels are sometimes kind of blurry, and why you should, as an exercise, every time you read a research paper, try to think up a new research project that falls into each of the category, right? Just, get your brain start to think and generating new ideas. And then we touch a little bit on syntopical reading. And that is what I want to talk about today. Research, blah. Man, can't talk today. And that's what I want to talk about today, giving you examples of different levels of doing research and research project examples. Okay. So I think that's gonna be about it as far as today's goal and finding your research direction. Right. So at this point, you should know how to find literature, how to read it, how to come up with your own research project, and how to find good research projects. Whereas good depends on how you define it. So again, I want to stress this part because sometimes I am misunderstood. Even though I say that there are 3 levels of doing research. And obviously, I think that the assumption level of doing research is the best level to be doing research, and optimization is easier. But that doesn't mean that you should not do optimization level, right? Optimization level of doing research is still important and valuable, right? What level of research you will be doing depends on a lot of factors. It depends on whether you have the knowledge or enough knowledge to be attacking problem at this layer or not. Oh, I need to turn off. They have started 13:30. So what level of research you will be doing depends on a lot of things. It depends on the time that you have, the resources that you have, the team that you have, the expertise that you have, your interest, your passion, the market trend, what people are interested in. Like, it depends on a lot of things. Even though I said that the assumption level of research is better than refinement, is better than optimization, but do not let that stop you from doing any kind of research, right? Doing any kind of research is fun. Coming up with new shit is fun, right? So again, just like anything else in this series, the only way to get better as a graduate student or researcher is just to get shit done, right? Go read more papers, go write more papers, go think about more things. Do not waste your time asking people how to get better. Just start doing shit, right? I'm not saying that you should not come and listen to me, but you should always try to make yourself better. คุณแทน hi. So I think one of the hardest parts is the ability to doubt the result reported on the paper. I used to read a lot of papers without doubting the result, and it limits my idea quite a lot. Absolutely. And we will absolutely talk about how to separate the good ones from the bad ones in the future. And that's like a very, very thorny concept, especially for graduate students, because one of the problems that I always see is that graduate students read all the papers and believe all of them because they would be like, oh my God, I can't even write one paper. If the others publish a paper, then it's obviously correct. No, right? There are a lot of bad papers out there. And then we talk about how to, separate the good ones from the bad ones. Really good point, Content. Thank you. So that is it for today. And thank you for joining me. And again, come back and come talk to me whenever you want. So again, this is GSD with Tanwa, getting shit done with Tanwa. We are live every Friday at 1:30, and hopefully I will see you again next week. Next week, we will talk about this thing, negotiating with your advisor. And some of you might probably need this skill more than others because, talking to your advisor is actually not easy, especially if you have an advisor like me. Okay. So that is it for today. Hopefully I'll see you again next week, every Friday at 1:30. As for today, thank you for joining me. See you.